Hi guys, it's Hannah. Welcome back to my book channel. If you're new here, hello. I hope you enjoy my bookish content. At the moment I upload 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday and Fridays, and I'm always posting on my Bookstagram a few times a day, although I do limit my time on my Instagram to about 15 minutes a day, just because it's better for my mental health. March wrap up. Now, I actually surprised myself in March. I read so much more than was actually on my TBR, and that never happens to me. I'm the kind of person that either reads super slowly or I take my time when I'm reading a book. So as you can see, we have an extensive, I have read more than books, which, I mean, I think I had 8, or did I have 9? I don't know, I just know some of these weren't even on my TBR and I read them anyway. So we're gonna get through this pile of books that I read in March. No particular order. So the first book I read was The Couple Next Door by Cherie Lapina. I absolutely loved this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was quick, it was fast paced, the chapters were sweet and short, they kept you guessing. I did not guess the twist at all. I loved the concept and the conversations that were intertwined into this book, because a lot of thrillers don't really introduce such a heavy subject in the way it was. And I really enjoyed this about this book because it had the mention of postnatal depression and postpartum and everything like that. But if you're after a really quick thriller to read that entices you and you want to know, well, what's going on, essentially this follows the story of a baby that goes missing in the middle of the night whilst the couple is at a party which is next door, and so obviously all these suspects are the spouse, the neighbour, everything's intertwined, and you figure there's twists and turns in the end. But yeah, 5 out of 5, really enjoyed. If you want a quick read, it's only about 300 pages and it will keep you hooked, and I managed to read this in like 48 hours, so highly recommend. Second book I read in March was Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a story of grief and loss and learning to live without a loved one, and it's just so beautifully written. This cover is stunning, the jacket is stunning, it is beautiful. It's one of my favourite covers of the book that I have, and I love this book because it was such a different read for me, because obviously I'm used to reading thrillers or rom-coms, and this was just a tale of how a mother coped being away from her husband as her husband learned to fend for the family from far away, and it had mentions of Stratford-upon-Avon, and it intertwined Shakespeare and everything like that. So this is just such a beautiful story. At times it is really sad reading about grief and the love of a lost one, but I think if you can cope with reading a story like this, it is beautifully written, and I would highly recommend. Look how beautiful. It's got like an owl here, and then it's got like a little rabbit there as well. It's stunning. I love this book. Anyway, I gave that a 4 out of 5. I think basically my Goodreads isn't working because I put like a load of books that I had read in this year just now, and then it said it doesn't count to my reading challenge, but I don't know what happened. They just all disappeared. The worst books I read in March were 2 by Sally Rooney. Oh my god, I wanted to love these books, I wanted to enjoy them, I wanted to see if they lived up to the hype, I wanted to have a fun time, and none of the above happened. I did not enjoy this book at all. I found it just increasingly frustrating. Like, the characters annoyed me, the lack of communication between them, the way there's no speech marks in the book annoyed me, and I figured that out at the end. I was like, why is this so weird? And then I read another book and it had speech marks, and I was like, that's why. Anyway, I just found the characters to be annoying, and like, the one thing I think in young relationships, people don't communicate that well their problems, and it's really not that hard. Like, they went through years of their lives not being together because they couldn't communicate the fact they wanted to be together with each other, and then they're just miserable for the most of it. And I tried to watch the TV show. Oh, I couldn't get past the third episode. I felt like I was watching some soft porno, essentially, and that's not what I want to be watching. Anyway, so I did not enjoy Normal People. I tried, and I'm not going to force myself to like a popular book if I did not enjoy it. I'm pretty sure Sally Rooney's written some other books, or some better books than this. I just did not vibe, did not enjoy. I don't even think I gave this a rating. I don't know, it doesn't need a rating from me, I just did. This is how I feel about this book. Yeah. Then the second one by Sally Rooney was Conversations with Friends. Again, I tried to love it. Really tried to get into the vibe. Just couldn't. I couldn't. I don't see the appeal of romanticizing affairs, and like, obviously it's fiction, it's not real, but I don't see the appeal in cheating on people. I don't see what makes that a beautiful story, that you're hurting other people around you. And the only thing I did like about this book in particular was the mention of endometriosis, because that's something that I'm currently trying to figure out. Like, I'm having pelvic scans and everything like that. Fingers crossed I don't actually have endo, but it's just something that we're exploring with my doctors at the moment, because having painful periods is like, every period is painful, but there's a limit, and girl, in excruciating pain. And this one time I ended up at the hospital like with unexplained stomach cramps, and the doctor was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "No, there's no chance I can be pregnant." And at the time, me and my boyfriend hadn't been dating that long, and he came to the hospital with me, and the doctor was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "No, why are you asking me?" And then he was like, "Well, this kind of pain only really kind of makes sense if you're having like an ectopic pregnancy." And I was like, what the fuck? So reading the scenes in this book that was to do with endo was like pretty spooky. Anyway, DNF, did not finish, I don't know, maybe the TV show will be better than Normal People. We'll have to see. That's how I feel about Sally Rooney's books. The next book I read was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. My washing machine's quiet now, so I can talk. Anyway, I don't know what number, the fifth book, I've lost count, I read in March was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a YA, and it follows the story of Pippa, who is currently writing a school project about a girl that went missing 5 years ago called Andy Bell, and she was murdered by Sal. The police know he did it, everyone in town knows he did it, but essentially she reopens the case and discovers things that don't add up and things that don't make sense. So you follow her on her journey, writing her project, and the twists and turns were pretty, like, obviously it's YA, so it's not going to be like blowing my mind like a Lisa Joelle book would, but I really enjoyed the pace of this book. I enjoyed how it was set out as if you are following along Pippa as she is writing her school project. And I did not know this isn't a standalone. There's a sequel that essentially, I don't think it follows, maybe it follows Pippa, it doesn't follow the story from this, but apparently I need to read the next one. 5 out of 5, really loved it. Obviously it's a YA, so it's a quick pace. It's like mediocre in the graphicness of the thrillers that I normally read, are a bit more graphic and disturbing. However, obviously it's not going to be like that if it's targeted to younger audiences. But yeah, I read this in about 24 hours as well. Loved it completely. Really enjoyed. Would highly recommend if you are into a YA thriller. The next book I read in March was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Obviously Agatha Christie is a classic one. Again, I did not guess the ending, and then I finished it and was really confused, and my boyfriend was like, "Do you not get it?" And I was like, not really, no, because I think basically I read this like the day after I got my vaccine, and I was like, I don't really know what's happening, I'm confused. And then I finished the last sentence and was like, I don't understand. Anyway, this is a story about a murder on the Orient Express, which is a train, and essentially the way it's told is all the suspects all the suspects give their evidence to Pyro? Is that his name? Pyro. And you have to figure out who murdered him. And I did not guess. And essentially, I think most of the blueprints for future thriller writers were heavily inspired by Agatha Christie, and I really liked it, so I'd give this a 4 out of 5. The next book I read in March is this one by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it's the first book I've ever read by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I chose to order one that wasn't as popular as Seven Husbands, or what was the other one? All the other names. Seven Husbands or Forever Interrupted. I read this book in under 48 hours. I literally started reading it as soon as I finished Murder on the Orient Express, and I was like, I want to read a book by this author, and I want to read a romance essentially. And whew, girl, if you need to cry, just read this book. You'll feel as if, even if you're not going through a breakup, you will feel as if you are part of this character. Like, there was like an argument between her and her husband, and I literally said, what an arsehole, out loud, and started crying. And my boyfriend was like, are you okay? Are you crying about fictional characters? And I was like, yeah, I actually am. Like, I can't quite cope. Like, he's being mean, he's being an arsehole. So anyway, essentially this follows the story of Lauren and Ryan, who have been together for like 11 years since they were in college, and you know, the beginning was like a fairy tale, and everything they could have ever dreamed of. They had like the perfect engagement, the perfect wedding, and then years later they have a dog called Thumper, and they agree to separate. They don't agree to divorce. They agree to separate and spend a year apart. They have no contact with each other whatsoever. But Lauren is sneaky, and she still has Ryan's password, so she essentially finds drafts of emails that Ryan has drafted out, but he's never sent them to Lauren because he said no contact for a year. And through reading this, she finds out he's dating someone else, even though that wasn't something that they had initially said that they were okay with. So yeah, and Lauren is 30, she has a 30th birthday, and essentially her 25-year-old brother is now a bit more ahead in life than she was at 25, and she feels like just a bit jealous of her brother having everything so together. And essentially you follow them through their trial separation. So essentially in the book it's as if they are planning to get together again a year later. I'm not going to spoil it because I don't want to, and also I loved this book. I am so excited to read anything else by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and also this book is really floppy. Like, I don't know if that entertains people, but it's really floppy. Anyway, so essentially, you know, the happily ever after, like, marriage is hard work, you have to work at it, and you know, sometimes things fizzle out, but it's a two-way street, as Lauren said in it. So are you willing to fight for it, or are you just going to give up? And essentially it's why they spend a year apart with no communication, and yeah, so you'll have to read it if you want to know if they end up back together or not. But I highly recommend this one if you have not read this one in particular by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Highly recommend. It's called After I Do. Anyway, the last book I read in March was this one by Colleen Hoover called Verity. Oh my god, I loved this book so much. This is the best thriller I have read this year, hands down. I mean, I know it's only March, but I'm just going to tell you, this is the best thriller I have read in such a long time. I don't think I've read it. Woo! Let me carry on what I was saying. Where's the book? Okay. Verity by Colleen Hoover. Oh my god. This is the best thriller I have read this year. I know we're only in March, so maybe a bit premature to say that, but oh God, I enjoyed this book so much. I read it in 11 hours. I simply could not put it down. I was, you know, making a cup of tea, had it in one hand, was just literally like brushing my teeth, had the book in my hand. I could not put it down. I was hooked from the very start, and I did not know that Colleen Hoover is known for romances, not so much thrillers. However, this was the best thriller I have read this year. A 5 out of 5. You need to read it if you've not read it and you're skeptical. Before this book, I'd never read anything by Colleen Hoover. Before, on Instagram, I'd never heard of her. So, anyway, this essentially follows the story of Lowen Ashley, who is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin. When she accepts the job offer of a lifetime, Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. And oh boy, boy did this keep me on like tenterhooks. I literally was like, every time there's a twist I'd be like, what the fuck? I did not expect that like at all. And I think the only other book that I could think of that made me feel the way I feel about this book is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Joelle. So I'm pretty excited that I have managed to find a 5 out of 5 in March, and my favourite thriller I've read this year so far. So those are all the books I read in March, essentially more than my normal average, I think. But yeah, anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you did, give it a thumbs up for me, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.